was your impression, and what about her surprised you when you started working with her that you thought, I didn't know she'd be like that?
Yes, it was very refreshing actually to meet her because you know, inevitably you meet on the test and you don't know each other, and it's a kind of always slightly awkward because you're doing this kind of intimate scene with someone you've never even set your eyes upon. But she's really refreshing, and she's very open to really kind of collaborating as two people and making the scene as good as possible. And I found that when we were filming, what she was great intuitively at is that, you know, when you're doing a big film like this, you may be in the midst of a big stunt sequence, or it's a green screen, or, you know, and sometimes it's easy to get lost in that. And what she's great at, and what we managed to do a lot, is really ground the work, as pretentious as that sounds, but, you know, bring it back to the fact that the reason you're there is because you're trying to tell a story about two people or several people. And I think she's so great at that, like very emotionally intuitive, and being able to bring a truth to something, even in the kind of craziest circumstances.
Okay. Hi, Theo.
Hey, what's up?
I wanted to ask you about working with director Neil Berger and his vision for bringing this story from the novel to the big screen.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Neil. He's a very cool dude, but also he's a very smart person with very good taste. And I was very pleased when Shay and I saw the movie on Sunday. Inevitably, there's some trepidation when you see a film, because, you know, you give it up, you give it over, you finish with your job. And we were really pleased at what came about, and I think he managed to really keep a lot of integrity. There's no dumbing down, there's no kind of simplification, and there are some really strong themes in it about, you know, questions of determinism, questions of choice, identity, you know, things that people can really relate to, but also, you know, things that are a bit deeper than the surface level. What we did, Shay, myself, and Neil would be always revisit the scenes the night before, a couple of nights before, when things weren't feeling right, and then do several revisions of it to make sure we were all at a place where we felt that this was a genuinely good scene, and it also worked kind of not only in the context of honouring the material, but it was real and specific and, you know, and good, essentially. Another thing Neil did was really create a genuine world that you buy into, at least I hope, because I believe that. And I remember one thing he said was, you know, there's a point in the book where someone dies, one of the kind of wannabe initiates, someone dies very early on, and we were asking, you know, why he thought that shouldn't be there. And he said, look, what you need to do is you need to set up a construct, because people like to use the word dystopia, but it's not really a dystopia at the beginning. You need to set up a construct where this is a world that seems to be functioning. You need to buy it, because then inevitably when the downfall of the world comes, that means the stakes are higher and it means something. Because if you're in a world where it's like all shit, and you know, you don't empathize with it, and you don't want to be there, and you don't want to kind of be in these people's company, then you're not going to care. So I thought that was a really strong thing that he did, set up a world that is real, then with the kind of, you know, the whole military coup that happens with the erudite faction, then it means something, and the stakes change.
Hey, Theo, could you talk a little bit about what was the toughest stunt you had to do, what kind of training you did, and just a favorite memory of Chicago?
Toughest stunt was, I guess, you know, with Shay, I just wanted to practice as much as possible the kissing scene, but she wasn't really up to it. I was like, listen, tonight, I mean, after dinner, we could just go over that scene again. No, I think, you know, for me, the end scene, it's a kind of big climax where there's a fight, and then that leads into really the climax of the whole movie. And what is great about that, but what I really wanted to honor, was you have this really dynamic fight scene, and it's visceral and painful, and, you know, Shay gets punched in the face many times, which is kind of, you know, that's quite hardcore in many ways. But also, in the midst of the scene is really a story about her getting through to him, to Thor, through love, and that was kind of something that I really wanted to honor. And then, genuinely, the kissing scene, Shay and I, in a real way, we wanted that to be as good as possible, because it's the only time they get together, it's the only kind of really kind of, I don't know how to describe a kissy, smooshy scene or whatever. And we wanted it to be good, and to still kind of to fulfill the kind of things that it needed to fulfill, but also be real and not kind of ebb on the side of lots of cheese. So yeah, we actually shot that a second time because the first time it didn't feel quite right, and we really wanted to honor it in the way that it's earned, and I think hopefully it's earned because there's not lots of batting eyelids and kind of fawning towards each other in the whole film. It's quite a functional, tough, kind of intricate, complex relationship. So when eventually they kiss, I hope that it's earned and it's not just, oh, okay, they've got to get it on, here it is, kind of thing.
Hi, so the producer said you and Shailene actually climbed the Ferris wheel. Like
Yeah.
your character, did you have any, were you afraid of heights? Or what was that like?
It wasn't too bad because we were strapped in, so you felt kind of invincible. Although when I was up there, I was like, I'm going to test you guys and jump off, and he's like, well, you can do that. You still break your arm. Maybe not. But yeah, I mean, in a good way, because we actually did it, you could draw on, if you were feeling those feelings, inevitably you could draw on them and try and make it as real as possible. So yeah.
Hi, this is over here. Theo.
Hey.
Hi, this is sort of a
Okay.
fun question. Okay, so when you initiate into Dauntless, you kind of have to choose your name. What name would you choose for yourself?
One, I think. That'll be the ultimate legend. I don't know, yeah, that or Captain Semi-Greek or something.
Yasu.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I just wanted to ask you, Veronica was saying earlier that when she saw you in the casting session, she was immediately like, yes, definitely. So did you get that vibe right away, or when did you find out that she was definitely,
In terms of Veronica?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't really know that, to be honest, and I heard she was obviously happy with the test, but, you kind of, in a way, a constant, I guess, pessimist, so you don't believe it until someone slaps you around the face with it. So I kind of, when I got to know her more, then it became apparent. But she was really great, actually, because she would be on set and involved, but she was happy to let Neil and us just kind of run with it, because she knew that essentially it's a very different medium, obviously, bringing this book to film. So she kind of let us do our thing, and I consciously didn't want to ask questions to her. I didn't want to say, what do you think X and Y blah blah about for? Because you have to be, when you're bringing, when you're choosing to play a character that's already a book, especially when it already has a big fan base. I think it's really important to be 100% strong in your intentions with the character, and you can't listen to too much outside kind of stimulus, because otherwise it waters down your own instincts. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Cassandra.
Hi.
I was wondering, in the movie, Triss is perceived differently after she joins Dauntless, so how have people perceived you differently before and after you accepted this role?
Good question. Wow. It all begins with a morning in 2009. How have they perceived it differently? Well, maybe there is more awareness of me before. I think, before I did this, people were like, they thought I was cleaning the toilet or something, and then happened to be there for the audition. But no, in seriousness, I don't think I've experienced it too much, to be honest, at the moment. The press kind of tour we just did, it was interesting because suddenly we saw some of the fandom, but I don't think perceptions of me have changed massively. I think it will be important for me as I go on, because there potentially are 3 films, to make choices that are, as much as I love the character before, but to make smart choices that are very different from him and the world that he and everyone else in film inhabits.
Hey, Theo, over here. First of all, congratulations, fantastic in this. Kind of following up on the question about casting, the producers talked about how all of Shailene's screen tests with guys before you, she really commanded the scenes, overshadowed the guys, but then when you came in, there was, it's like she had met her match, there was this strength. So for you, when you were examining this character, what was that thing that you picked up on that, really allowed you to kind of go to that like the strength, not just physical, but it played so well into your eyes. You could see there was something, you know, the layers there, deep below the surface.
Yeah, I think I had an immediate affinity with the character. To me, I think we share certain qualities, which I think you try to tend to use you know, the things that you share with the character in everything you do, obviously, to make it as real as possible. For me, I love this person who you don't really know what he's thinking. He's also, the type of person who walks into a room and doesn't need to be the loudest voice, but you still feel his presence. Also someone who doesn't speak too much, but you know that he's thinking all the time. That's one thing I really wanted to be. You know, he's a very perceptive person, but he doesn't have to speak too much. And then on top of that, this kind of dangerous stillness that I felt he had when reading the book and the script, and those things I wanted to draw on. I love masculine characters who don't have to be kind of, you know, shouting in someone's face and kind of wielding their masculinity in a way that's jamming it down someone's throat. I like this old, you know, the Newman style of kind of, everything's here. So I hope that, yeah, came across, and that's one of my favorite parts of him as a character. And yeah, obviously I didn't want Shay to fuck with me.
The film obviously has this unusual view of the future. Do you think the film ultimately is a hopeful one? Because the society they show in Divergent doesn't seem to be working anymore, and obviously we look at ourselves today, and it's hard not to want to question these things in the film. For you, is it a hopeful message to you?
Is it a hopeful message? I'm not 100% sure in a way. I think no in many respects. I think analyzing the concept, you have to, you know, although you set up a world that is seemingly working, inherently the concept of a faction system is a hard one to swallow, because we all know that people are motivated by varying different things. You know, everyone is multifaceted. But at the same time, I think what is interesting about the film, and maybe what people relate to, and why, you know, people are interested in these films set in the future is perhaps, you know, a young generation growing up in a world where there's always rhetoric about the fact that resources are depleting, the fact that the population is going to be, you know, 9, 10, 11 billion in 2050, the fact that, you know, there are all these things playing into their subconscious, which means they are interested and questioning how their future, how their children, how their grandchildren will, you know, exist. And I think that's kind of an interesting concept. I think the hopeful message is that in this society, which you think is functioning, you realize is completely inadequate. You know, you have these factionalists who are just kind of shuffled to the side, and, like, you know, there's not much, you know, in reality, these people aren't respected in a good way. The hopeful message is that eventually they break free of those bonds and want to find equality.
Hi. Can you tell us some behind-the-scenes secret from the set or something that maybe people would be surprised to know just from watching the movie or something like that?
Behind-the-scenes secret? Well, you might get arrested if that happens for that. Behind-the-scenes secret. I would say one thing would be we like to, which is fun, and I always think it's really important, in all those kind of intense scenes, most of them had jokes slammed in there. Basically, we'd always do several takes where there would be a kind of stupid joke in there somewhere, which is fun, because I think sometimes when you're doing this serious material in this kind of crazy futuristic world, it's good to sometimes, you know, crack a joke as a cast and be able to relax and realize that, you know, you're not solving world hunger, you're making a film. Yeah, I guess that would be one. What else? I don't think I can say that, so yeah.
My question, as much as your character has a relationship with Tris, I also was fascinated by the kind of interaction you had with Jack Courtney's character. And if you could talk, one, about working with him and kind of what you took away from that experience, and two, kind of how you saw that relationship with those two characters, and if they were adversaries who had to work together, and kind of how you put that in your head.
Yeah, I was really pleased when I found out that Jai was going to play that role, because in a way in the book, I don't know, he seemed, he didn't see, I feel like Jai kind of represents that in a really good way, and he's a really, not only physically, but kind of the way he plays it is quite formidable, and I wanted them to be almost equal, you know, two characters who were kind of strong enough in very different ways to be butting heads. I think initially the way I settled it was that they would be kind of, not exactly friends, but they would be functioning together, because inherently although he is divergent and he ends up, you know, rebelling, at the beginning he should be someone who believes in the system. You know, he's an advocate for the system, and he's like a kind of pseudo-general, and I think, you know, Jai is one of those as well, and they represent two diverging paths. You know, Jai's character goes down you know, he gets kind of, I guess, wooed by power and you know, is interested in kind of, is part of this big military coup, whereas 4 represents maybe the more old school kind of way of being hopeful for believing in a system that kind of it has equality, I guess. But yeah, I like the idea of these two characters kind of working for the same team, but also fucking wanting to, like, occasionally kill each other.
Hi, you.
Hey.
My question is, the Divergent world is the people choose what they want to be. So how about yourself? So you're an actor. So what moment, what made you choose become an actor?
To be an actor? What moment? I was walking down the street and well, I think it was always kind of in my sphere, and I'd be lying if I said, oh, you know, it's funny when people are like, oh, I just fell into this movie and suddenly I'm really wealthy and extremely, whatever. No, I'm wealthy, unfortunately. But I was always part of what I was doing. I think actually, genuinely, there probably was a point when I was doing a really bad version at university of Patrick Marvel's Closer, and I was on stage and there was a particular joke, and I remember thinking, this is not only gratifying, but a really kind of, there's something really exciting about this, and I thought if I could try at least to do this in a professional context, then it would be a really fulfilling and exciting way to try and earn a living.
Hi.
Okay.
You and Tris and Bohr have a very complicated, complex relationship in the film and in the book as well. What do you think, in a sense, draws them together from the beginning and as their relationship develops?
I think she is kind of fascinated by him, but also doesn't understand his motivations. He seems to be kind of very cold and then momentarily hot, and you know, inevitably that is something that lots of relationships gravitate towards, you know. But also, I think he sees in her something unique and dynamic in a world where he sees lots of people coming through the system, and inherently, I think it's an interesting relationship because it's not based on, you know, lots of swooning. It's essentially two people who respect each other, and he really respects her and sees that she is completely selfless but also strong, and she sees his rippling abs.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.